Today, we're doing a deep dive into some of the absolute worst advice you've ever been given about saving money. Specifically, if you're a middle-income earner and you're trying to hit that first major milestone, that initial $10,000 buffer, you are fighting a battle that is, it turns out, psychologically rigged against you.
It's completely rigged. The research starts by pointing out that we are fighting this massive headwind.
Okay, a headwind, how so?
Scientists studied our whole relationship with money, and they found something really profound. We suffer from what's called loss aversion.
Loss aversion, right? I've heard of this.
Yeah. So watching $100 leave your bank account feels, scientifically speaking, twice as painful as the good feeling you get when you find or earn that same $100.
Twice as painful. Wow. So your brain is literally wired to see saving as a punishment.
Exactly. It hurts.
And that must explain the brutal statistic we came across. 90% of people who set ambitious savings goals just abandon them.
Within 6 months, yeah.
And the failure isn't a lack of income. And it's definitely not some moral failure of willpower. It's a whole formula we're using.
Which is why the old method, income minus expenses equals savings, is fundamentally broken. It forces you into this daily discipline battle against your own brain wiring, which just wants that instant gratification.
So what's the alternative?
The sources we looked at today offer this new, really powerful equation. Saving equals income minus ego.
Income minus ego. I love that. So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to use behavioral science, not grit, to break down that $10,000 goal and get rid of that psychological friction.
So you can join the successful 10%.
Exactly. Okay, so let's jump in. How do we eliminate the need for willpower entirely?
Well, when people try to save, they focus on cutting the lattes and clipping coupons. It's this daily struggle.
The grind.
The grind. But if discipline was really the answer, 90% of us would be succeeding, not failing. The key, according to the research, is to eliminate the moment of decision itself.
I found the data on this just fascinating. There was a crucial finding from 2004 that showed people who used a specific automation strategy saved 3.8 times more money than people who just relied on discipline.
3.8 times. It's a staggering difference.
It basically suggests that willpower is almost irrelevant.
Yeah.
So the key isn't about what you cut, but just setting up the guardrails first.
Exactly. The battle is won during the initial setup, not in the grocery store aisle. And to install these guardrails, it's just a one-time effort.
Okay, so what does that look like?
First, you calculate your true baseline spending. That's fixed costs like rent, plus an average of your variable costs, groceries, gas from the last few months.
So you get a real number for what you actually need to live on.
A real number. Then comes the systemic magic. On payday, when that check hits your bank, your institution automatically applies what you could call a future self-tax.
A future self-tax.
Yeah. The money is immediately split into 2 different accounts before you even get a chance to see the full balance.
So you don't even feel it leaving.
You don't. Account 1 is your spending account. This holds exactly that baseline amount you calculated for your monthly needs. And account 2 is your untouched savings account, where your $10,000 goal lives.
Okay, that makes sense.
But there's this often missed third component that really removes the friction. At the end of the month, any little buffer left over in that spending account is automatically transferred as a bonus to your savings account.
That's the genius of it. It bypasses that loss aversion completely. Your current self never notices the deduction because the money moves before you have a chance to budget with it or even feel like you own it.
You made the decision once. That's it. The system handles the discipline forever.
So once that system's in place, we hit the next big psychological barrier, right? The number itself. $10,000 just feels huge. It's overwhelming.
It's so big that it leads to paralysis. People just quit.
So we have to shrink that number until it loses its power.
Exactly.
If the target is $10,000 in 1 year, that's what, $833 a month? Still feels like a lot?
Still pretty substantial, yeah.
But if you break it down further, that monthly number becomes just $27.40 per day.
And suddenly you're not trying to save a mountain. You're just looking for the equivalent of a single kind of mediocre lunch out every day.
That's a decision. That's not some monumental lifestyle shift.
Right.
That's actually incredibly grounding. I think most people imagine saving $10,000 as, giving up vacations or big goals. But it's really just being mindful of that $27.40.
And the sources highlight some really common leaks where you can find that money. For many people, just skipping a restaurant lunch, like you said, meets the goal for that day immediately.
Or it could be a bunch of tiny choices, right?
Absolutely.
Huh.
Cooking dinner instead of getting takeout, that's maybe $10 to $15 saved. You brew your own coffee instead of buying that $5 latte, you've saved $20 right there.
Even canceling a couple of streaming services you barely watch can save you $1 a day. It all adds up.
It does.
But finding $27 is easy for one day. How do we stay motivated to find it for 365 days in a row?
That's where the sources introduce this powerful concept of future value. You have to stop viewing it as losing $27 today.
And start seeing it as what?
Start seeing it as building a future legacy. To illustrate this, let's just go back to that $5 coffee.
Okay.
If you instead invested that $5 and earned a historical average of, say, 10% annual return, it becomes $34 in 20 years.
Wow. Okay, so the real question isn't, can I afford this $5 coffee?
No, the real question becomes, is this brief moment of pleasure worth sacrificing 34 future dollars to me? When you frame it like that, you connect your tiny daily actions directly to that big $10,000 goal.
That's a huge mental shift. But even with the system automated, temptation is still a big problem. You see an online ad or walk past a store, and you just feel this undeniable pull to buy something.
You know you shouldn't, but the urge feels so real. And that's thanks to something called present bias.
Explain that.
Present bias is the psychological trap that makes us choose a small, immediate reward over a much larger reward that's way off in the future. And to beat it, you really have to understand dopamine.
Right, the pleasure chemical.
Yeah, but most of us get it wrong. We think the pleasure hit happens after we buy the thing. But the science shows the real rush happens during the anticipation phase.
So when you're thinking about it or tracking the package online.
Exactly. Adding it to your cart. That manufactured excitement is what drives the purchase. Once you get the item, the dopamine often just stops, which is why that expensive impulse buy feels kind of invisible a few days later.
And retailers know this.
Oh, they build entire business models on exploiting that anticipation dopamine. Artificial urgency, limited time offers, flash sales. It's all designed to short-circuit your rational brain.
So what's the counter strategy?
It's simple and it's shockingly effective. It's called the 30-day waiting list.
Okay, a waiting list.
When temptation strikes, you don't engage in a willpower battle and say no. You just say not now. And you add the item to a list.
So you let yourself have the anticipation, but without spending the money.
You got it. And here's why this works so well. Research shows that 92% of the time, the impulse just fades away after about 2 weeks.
92%. So 9 out of 10 things you want today, you won't even remember wanting in a month.
You'll look at the list after 30 days and realize the dopamine rush is gone. It's a way to train your brain to separate what you really need from that manufactured urgency.
Okay, so we've engineered the system, we've hacked our impulse control, but the sources argue there's still this one massive internal leak that automation can't stop.
And that is the ego, which brings us all the way back to that core concept. Savings equals income minus ego.
Right. The material makes this really powerful, maybe slightly uncomfortable argument that most of the spending that sinks middle-income earners, it's purely ego spending.
It's trying to keep up with the neighbors, constantly upgrading your phone when the old one works fine, driving a car that's objectively too expensive for your income.
The irony is just, it's so rich. Actual, truly wealthy people, the ones with real financial security, they often look normal.
They drive reasonable cars. They don't feel the need to broadcast their net worth through consumption.
Meanwhile, you see people drowning in debt who are maintaining this expensive performative illusion that is actively bankrupting them.
It's all for show.
So the fastest way to increase your savings rate has nothing to do with getting a raise. It's about caring less what other people think of you.
Your ability to eliminate that ego spending, to drive a 10-year-old car while your colleagues are driving new ones, that determines your financial future more than your salary ever will.
So let's apply that future value thinking to these bigger ego-driven purchases.
This is where it gets really interesting. Let's say you're looking at a $3,000 purchase. Maybe it's a luxury gadget, a designer couch, a vacation you can't really afford.
Before you buy it, run the calculation. $3,000 invested today at that same 10% interest rate. In 30 years, it becomes approximately $52,000.
$52,000.
So now the critical question forces you to ask, is this $3,000 thing genuinely worth $52,000 to my future self?
And look, sometimes the answer might be yes, if it's truly essential or an irreplaceable memory. But most of the time, when you see the real trade-off, the desire for the purchase just evaporates.
But even with all the systems and all the math, motivation can just, disappear if there's no emotional core driver.
It absolutely does. A study from 2019 showed that people who leveraged an emotional connection to their savings were 3.3 times, that's 330% more likely to succeed.
Wow.
Mechanical systems alone just treat saving like a chore. You need what the authors call a visceral why.
A visceral why. So not just the what's and the how.
No, most people focus on what I'm saving money and how I'm automating it, but they never get to the why that actually makes their chest feel tight.
And that why has to be personal and deeply emotional. It's not the rehearsed answer you give a financial advisor.
Not at all. It might be the memory of growing up broke. It might be the freedom to quit a soul-crushing job to spend time with your kids, or the desire to help your aging parents. Your brain needs concrete images.
So the actionable tool here is simple visualization.
It is. Put a picture of that true why. Financial freedom, a new business, your family's stability. Put it somewhere you can see it. That concrete image will stop an impulse buy faster than any statistic about compound interest.
I really like that framing of the first $10,000 or $20,000 is the hardest part. The idea of protecting a small, fragile flame in the wind. And you've used automation and psychology to build this glass cage to shield that flame from all those winds, the psychological ones, the ego-driven ones that are trying to blow it out.
And once that cage is built, the momentum completely shifts. The wealth starts to build naturally without that constant struggle. The focus moves from just saving to actually growing.
So what does this all mean for your very next spending decision? The takeaway seems to be, don't ask, can I afford it?
No, ask, what is its opportunity cost?
Your future self is depending on the decisions you're making today.
The ultimate test of financial maturity isn't your income. It's whether you prioritize your $52,000 future self over your $3,000 present ego.
So close that gap between knowing and doing. Right now, today, if we move on to the next thing, set up that automated transfer. Or just add the next impulse buy to that not now list.
Let this $10,000 be the seed of generational wealth, not just some temporary buffer. Go claim it.